Napoleon Hill reveals, "Today God unlocks the key to your abundance. Today, I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. God isn't concerned about your lack of money, but He is deeply concerned about your lack of vision for yourself." Does that sound contradictory? It is. You might think the door to prosperity is opened with currency or connections, but it only opens with something you carry inside you, something you may not even know you have. I am Napoleon Hill, and this morning, I am going to walk with you to show how God has already opened that door, and is just waiting for you to walk through it. I learned that before any material success, there's a quiet, almost invisible, but deeply transformative awakening. It's the moment you decide to stop living in reaction to circumstances and start creating your own reality. I remember as if it were today, sitting in front of a man whose eyes carried the weight of debt, late bills, and uncertainty about tomorrow. He said to me, "Napoleon, I don't see a way out. Every day feels the same." I looked him in the eyes and said, "As long as you keep asking how you're going to pay the bills, you'll stay trapped in the problem. Start asking how you can create value, how you can serve, how you can turn what you know into something that produces fruit." At first, he laughed, as if the idea were impossible. But weeks later, he started changing the questions he asked himself at dawn. No longer, "How will I survive?" but "What can I do today to prosper?" This simple shift in questions began to shape new answers in his mind. In 3 years, that man owned one of the most productive factories in the region. He didn't inherit a fortune, nor did he win the lottery. He simply understood that the most fertile ground he possessed was between his own ears. And what about you? How many times do you wake up and, before you even get out of bed, find yourself mentally replaying the same problems, the same worries, like a broken record? That's like planting a seed and watering it every day with dry sand. Nothing will grow. Science today confirms what I taught decades ago: people who clearly write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. This isn't magic, it's focus. Your mind starts working in your favor when it knows exactly where it's going. Maybe you're afraid to write down what you want because you fear you might not succeed. Maybe you think, "What if I fail?" But what if you don't try? How many years will you waste living the same script, waiting for something to change on its own? This is where most people fail, not from a lack of opportunity, but from a lack of vision. If you can't see yourself living in prosperity, you'll never make the decisions that lead you there. Imagine for a moment waking up tomorrow with absolute clarity about where you want to go. You would open your front door differently, greet people with more confidence, and be more selective about what you read, what you listen to, and what you say. Small decisions would begin to align your day with what you want to achieve. And little by little, this vision would cease to be just a mental image and become a series of real, tangible events. But be warned, vision is not fantasy. Fantasy is expecting something to fall from the sky. Vision is seeing the destination and then charting the course to get there. It is the union of faith and action. I have seen men of faith remain in scarcity because they believed. Praying was enough, but they refused to act. Likewise, I have seen men of action fail because they acted without direction, like someone running in circles. True prosperity is born when you combine faith, clarity, and movement. Today, my challenge to you is simple yet powerful. Before you step out of your house, write down exactly how you want to be 5 years from now. Be specific. How much money do you want to earn? Where do you want to live? With whom do you want to share your days? What impact do you want to make? And don't just put that paper in a drawer. Read it every morning. Make it your compass. It doesn't matter if, at first, this vision seems distant or even impossible. The distance doesn't matter when you start walking every day in the right direction. I state with complete conviction, the door to prosperity is already open for you, but only those who carry the right vision can walk through it. And that vision, my friend, is not born outside. It begins inside. The greatest enemy I have ever seen destroy more dreams than any economic crisis was fear. Not the instinctive fear that protects us from physical danger, but that silent, psychological fear that disguises itself as prudence. It arrives with a whispering voice, saying, "Don't do it now, wait a little longer, what if it goes wrong?" I, myself, even after studying the greatest businessmen of my time, have yielded to that voice. I remember an opportunity one had in the 1920s, an innovative publishing project. I had every reason to sign on, but I let it slip away because I imagined every possible bad scenario. A few months later, I saw another man, who had the courage I lacked, become a millionaire with that idea. That hurt more than any previous failure. And how many times has this happened to you? How many brilliant ideas have died in their infancy because fear told you it wasn't the right time? The majority of people don't realize that statistically, more than 90% of the fears we feel never materialize. But the brain, conditioned by repetition, starts treating every possibility as a real threat. It's like living in a prison where the bars don't exist, but the door remains locked because you never tried to push it open. Throughout my life, I have seen opposite examples of people who decided to act despite fear. One case that always comes to my mind is that of David Green, a Christian businessman who started with just $600 and built a billion-dollar empire. He could have been paralyzed by uncertainty, but he understood that courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward even while trembling inside. He knew that God had already prepared the way, but that he needed to take the first step. The truth is, fear doesn't work alone. It walks alongside the negative voices around you. Often, these are not declared enemies, but family, friends, or colleagues who, without apparent malice, question your ideas, plant doubts, and make you feel like you're dreaming too big. And, little by little, these external voices become internal, and you start to believe them. It's like what Psalm 1 already warned us about, blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked. It's not just about avoiding evil people, but also about avoiding advice that undermines your faith. And look, I am not telling you to act recklessly, but to understand that true prudence is to assess the risks and still move forward when you recognize that the goal is greater than the initial discomfort. Because faith without action is nothing more than a wish. And a wish without movement is just accumulated frustration. Think now, how many doors has God already opened in your life that you didn't walk through because of fear? Maybe it was a business, a course, a relationship, a move to a new city, a new project. Opportunities have an expiration date. Fear tries to make you believe they'll always be there, but they won't. And here is an exercise I want to propose to you, one that I have applied to myself and others I've seen prosper. Write down 3 important decisions you have been postponing out of fear. Then, ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I try? Next, ask, what's the best that could happen if I act? You will be surprised to realize that, most of the time, the potential gain is infinitely greater than the loss. Courage is not an emotion, it is a habit. The more you decide to act despite fear, the easier it becomes to do so again. And suddenly, what once seemed impossible becomes a natural part of your day. This is how I saw simple men build fortunes, and this is how I saw others get lost by hesitating. The difference between them? One chose to believe and act, the other chose to wait and lost. Tomorrow, when you wake up and that old voice tries to convince you to postpone something once more, remember, God doesn't open doors for you to just look at them. He opens them for you to enter. And every step taken despite fear is a brick on the road to your prosperity. I've learned, over decades of studying and living success, that patience is not just a virtue, it's a silent multiplier of results. Most people don't fail because they lack ability but because they give up too soon. I've seen extremely intelligent men abandon projects just steps from victory, simply because they couldn't bear to wait for the harvest. I've also seen others, seemingly less prepared, go much further because they remained steadfast, watering their seeds even when nothing seemed to be happening. I can tell you something personal, one of the greatest works of my life, which helped transform millions of people, was not born overnight. I spent 25 years researching, interviewing, and organizing ideas before publishing it. There were days when I doubted, when I thought I was wasting my time. But when that work finally saw the light of day, it not only changed my life but impacted generations. This experience proved to me that time, when allied with consistent action, is one of the most faithful partners of prosperity. Today, we live in an era of haste, where everyone wants to plant in the morning and harvest in the afternoon. But Psalm 1 already taught us long ago, he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season. Out of season fruit is sour fruit. So it is with life. If you rush too much, you lose the sweetness of lasting results. The most recent research confirms what I've been saying for decades: 92% of people abandon their goals in less than 3 years. This means that if you have the discipline to continue after most people give up, you will already be ahead of almost everyone. The problem is that patience is not just waiting, it's how you wait. Waiting without acting is stagnation. Waiting while acting is preparation. Think of an athlete who trains for months for a single race. He doesn't see results on the first day of training, but every stretch, every repetition, every drop of sweat is building a body and mind ready to win. Prosperity is the same. The financial return, the emotional stability, the life you dream of, are the fruits of a series of consistent decisions and habits that you maintain even when there are no cheers, even when no one is watching. I've seen people pull up their own seeds because they thought it wasn't working, and then complain about the lack of harvest. I've seen others who understood the principle and continued, even under criticism, even without visible evidence. And when the right season came, the abundance was so great that it surprised even them. If today you feel you are working and striving but not seeing results, perhaps it's not time to change what you are planting, but to strengthen your roots and keep nurturing until the time to bear fruit arrives. Patience here is not passivity but the firm conviction that what you are building will flourish. And I tell you, when you unite patience and daily action, your prosperity will cease to be a wish and become inevitable. Because the tree that stands firm by the right source, even during storms, is the same one that, in the correct season, will yield abundant fruits that no one can deny. I once met a preacher with a firm voice and a kind heart who dedicated his life to helping people. But there was something about him that always saddened me. He deeply believed that seeking prosperity was a sin. This belief stayed with him until his last day. He died in debt, relying on the generosity of others to survive. I tried to show him that prosperity wasn't about vanity but about increasing the capacity to bless others. But he could not free himself from that mental prison. And this is one of the heaviest chains I see binding men and women who could otherwise be transforming the world: the belief that they are not worthy of prosperity. These ideas are born from distorted interpretations of money, success, and faith. But Psalm 1 is clear: whatever he does shall prosper. This is not a suggestion or a trap to test your humility, it is a promise. Today, research in economic psychology confirms that the financial beliefs you carry directly shape your decisions and outcomes. People who believe that money is dirty or that wealth separates you from God tend, unconsciously, to reject opportunities, avoid healthy risks, and even sabotage their own growth. They don't realize it, but they repeat patterns that guarantee scarcity. On the other hand, look at the example of Mary Kay Ash, a Christian woman who believed that God wanted her to prosper to empower other women. With that conviction, she started selling cosmetics door to door and built a business that impacted millions of lives. If she had clung to the idea that prosperity was not for her, the world would have lost that transformative force. But understand, it's not enough to just say, "I believe I deserve to prosper." You need to consciously replace every limiting thought with a declaration of power. When your mind tries to tell you, "This isn't for me," you need to reply, "I am worthy of the prosperity that God promised me. Everything I do prospers because I am planted in the right soil." By repeating and acting on these declarations daily, you reprogram your mind to receive. Maybe today you don't even realize how much these beliefs have influenced your choices. Perhaps you've turned down a project because you didn't feel ready, or avoided investing in something because that's not for people like me. But the truth is that prosperity is not about luck or about who can and who can't. It's about aligning your mind, your heart, and your actions with an eternal principle. God did not create you to live a limited life. I have seen people break free from these chains and, in just a few years, completely change their lives. The transformation did not start with money in their pockets, but with the decision to believe they were worthy. And from there, they began to see and seize opportunities that had always been there but were previously invisible. If you still carry these beliefs, I want you to know, they do not have to define your future. Starting today, you can decide to believe in the promise and walk as someone who already lives in it. Because the door to prosperity does not open only for those who work hard, but also for those who believe they deserve to walk through it. And when that certainty takes root inside you, What once seemed unattainable begins to come your way. If there is one thing you need to take away from everything you've heard today, it is that prosperity does not begin in your pocket, it begins in your mind. It is the vision you cultivate, the courage you practice, the patience you maintain, and the faith you choose to live every day. This is the true secret to walking through the door that God has already opened for you. And now, I want you to continue this journey. The next video appearing on your screen will help you climb another step in your wisdom evolution, to become 1% better than you are now. I want you to be there with me, because every step matters, and the next one may be exactly what you need to transform your life even more. If this message resonated with you, please consider supporting the channel by clicking the thanks button below, and if you want to become a part of our community, subscribe. This way, you'll have priority access to new videos and be closer to every new lesson we share. I'll see you in the next video. Together, we'll continue building your prosperity, one step at a time.